Hey there folks, Wrel here. Today I'll be sharing some thoughts regarding your kill-death ratio and how it may impact players' overall outlook of the game. Your kill-death ratio, or KDR, is a statistic found in every competitive FPS that I can remember, and if it didn't exist up front and center, then players would find ways to track it, usually by modding the game. And in some respects, it points to your efficiency and technique as an individual. The problem here is that in a complex game that encourages you to play the objective, to take on fights that aren't prime farming opportunities, the statistic is relatively worthless. A kill in PlanetSide 2 is simply a last hit. That's it. It doesn't matter if you do 1% of the damage, it doesn't matter if you do 100% of the damage. If you kill a player and then they immediately get revived and then you gun them down again before they can actually do anything, then it's another kill for you. These traits themselves would be fine if kills weren't the main statistic that the game emphasized, but it is. If you open up the tab menu, you'll see the leaderboard organized by score with the number of kills a player has alongside of it. On the right half of the menu, you see kills, deaths, score, experience, certs, and KDR, and this in itself isn't terrible because it shows some useful and valuable information. Score per minute, score per hour, for example, is a much more relevant statistic in relation to PlanetSide 2, but the rest of the game does not support that. When you look at the directive system, you need 6 Araxi medals to complete a weapon directive. It doesn't factor in your kill assists, it doesn't factor in your headshots, it doesn't factor in the kinds of targets that you're killing, and on some level, it probably should. Now, imagine if weapon directives were based on the amount of experience that you gained by using that particular weapon, and it would be unmodified by boosts or membership bonuses. This would completely change how accomplishing a directive is done. Suddenly, support weapons like the Lasher get a fair shake. Even normal primaries that have suboptimal killing potential in stand-up fights, namely your Polaris, your EM1, your T-32 Bull, even battle rifles, all of them would get their proper recognition as well. Now if we go on to apply that same concept to other aspects of the directive trees, finishing your rocket launcher directive wouldn't require you to grind out infantry or steal last hits from enemy vehicles. This dampens the need for rocket primarying everything, which in turn creates a more enjoyable experience for everybody involved. Finishing your heavy assault's anti-vehicle grenades wouldn't require you to basically complete 2 max busting directives in a row, which creates a much less frustrating experience for the person actually trying to achieve it. Again, you would achieve these directives based on the experience gain made by those methods, instead of flatly tracking kills. And just to reiterate, memberships and boosts would not factor into the calculations, it's strictly focused on the base experience values. That said, it's not only the directives that are influenced by kills and KDR, however, it is also the community. When you get enough people saying the same thing, regardless of how wrong it may be, it becomes a commonly held belief. You can push against it, you can stand against it, you can speak out against it, but when the echo chamber starts to pick up momentum, it's going to eventually drown you out. We're seeing this right now with Magrider PPA, then the Banshees, and then soon, the Ravens. And all of those things I agree needed to be toned down, but they were always overpowered. People just talked about them a lot less before, because it wasn't the popular thing to do. But now it is. Just like judging players based on their KDR is becoming more and more popular, with the competitive scene picking up momentum. The developers need to ask themselves which behaviors it should be promoting to the majority of players. Is it working with your team? Is it taking territory? Or is it who can perform the best in a team deathmatch? And I'm not talking about removing KDR. If anything, I actually want KDR to mean something. Show me how well I perform vehicle versus vehicle. Show me how well I perform infantry versus infantry. Take my kill away if somebody gets revived. But keep those stats on the player profile page, not on the tab screen. The more competitive crowd will always have Recursion Stat Tracker, they can always watch their stats on stats.dawsonfall.com, and they should always be able to look up their KDR through their profile. But it should not be front and center if PlanetSide 2 wants to be regarded as anything but a glorified team deathmatch. At the end of the day, the less people who care about their KDR, the better the game is going to be for everybody involved. More players will focus on the bigger picture, which is taking on the jobs that aren't as popular or as lucrative, like being a transport specialist or going behind enemy lines to hack turrets and terminals, or pulling sunderers when they're needed. Plus, the people who do care about their KDR will be able to pad it more easily as more players care less about death. It's a win-win. So if you think about how to solve this, if you think about how to fix it, to me, most of these changes would come down to the UI and directives, with revamps of both of them. Directives we just talked about earlier, a large number of directives need to pull away from kills and place emphasis on baseline experience earned through specific means. So a lasher should still give you progress for kill assists, a rocket launcher should still give you progress for getting assists on vehicles and air deterrence bonuses, and anti-vehicle grenades should give you progress for kill assists as well. If I could redo the tab screen, it would probably look something like this. It maintains the important aspects of the current fight and the world at large, but that's it. You'd have your outfit's overall score in the current battle, with each player listed underneath as a drop-down. This way you can see which outfit is slated to take the current base, and it inspires more competition between outfits for something that actually matters, or at least something that actually should matter, which is the ownership of territory. You'd be able to see the current military strength in the area so that players know, at a glance, whether a fight is worth pursuing or whether or not they have enough force multipliers in the area to keep up an attack or defense. You'd also see bases that your outfit owns, and whether or not they're being contested along with the timers for each of them. You'd still see which buffs you have currently, you'd still see your current resources, and most importantly, all of the personal information that is usually tracked there would be put on your profile page. I know that you and many others might say, whoa, no, Wrel, I like being able to open up the tab menu and see how I'm doing, and I'm here to tell you that I think the game would be much better if that information was left on your profile screen, slightly out of the way, or on Recursion Stat Tracker. How much benefit do you think would come from having an easily accessible menu that shared pertinent, tactical information that actually promoted the overall concept behind the game, which is, I would hope, a massive war between three factions with an emphasis on territorial control and global domination. There is a chance that I could be alone here, but I don't really think that's the case. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this. I think that the majority of my audience cares very little about their KDR in the sense of a statistical EPEAN, but I am curious as to whether or not you've seen any increases in that sort of behavior, and whether or not a tactical tab menu would help you enjoy the game more. Thanks very much, folks. Wrel signing off.